Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lore Lords episode 27, where we
Wow.
are talking with me, Atlas, my best buddy co-host, Hat Weston.
Hey, I just realized you forgot to change the titles.
I did. Don't worry. It'll happen. It's happening right now.
Okay. Hi, everybody. It's me. It's Atlas. It's Lore Lords. We're your lore lads, and we're here to have a good time and talk about all hail the king, baby. All hail the Ant King. We're talking about one of the wildest arcs in anime history, and oh, that's a good name. Ant hunting is a good name because there's a lot of ant hunting in this.
All I know is it's about ants and an anime called Hunter x Hunter that I know absolutely nothing about.
Yeah. Yes, this is an anime that was recommended to me by my wonderful, super sexy, awesome, super rad roommate Yarkis. And he was saying to me, he's like, "This is my favorite anime. I love this anime so much." And I was like, "I guess I'll give it a shot." If somebody says something's like their favorite thing, and they look at me with it straight in the eyes, and they're like, their eyes are just twinkling, I'm like, "Okay, I'll check out that thing." Then. And I was like, "Okay, I'll check it out."
A single tear fell from his eye.
Yeah. And it is that good. I love this anime. I have to. There's actually a couple chapters of the manga that I actually have to catch up on because the anime has not caught up technically to the manga. There are a few arcs that are released, so I have to do that still, which is kind of fun. Although I have no way of reading any manga right now, so I'm like, I don't know how to do that, but I'll figure it out.
You could go to your local public library.
You know, they might have it.
They did when I was growing up. The library in my hometown of Thousand Oaks, California, which I can say because I don't live there anymore, that library had a manga section, and it was always full of weebs. So,
well, it sounds like my kind of people. So Hunter x Hunter actually was written in the 90s, and it did have an original anime run in the 90s. So there is actually two different versions of the anime, although I think that one ended after an arc called the York New City arc. Which is my favorite arc, by the way, in this whole show. But that's not the arc we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about an arc that is fucking crazy, wild, and every weeb that I know who's seen Hunter x Hunter, or any just like anime fan in general, not just weeb, but like they all agree that this is just one of the like every time you bring up the Chimera Ant arc, like I brought it up with Jimmy Marino, Madam Pixie Sticks, and they're all just kind of like, yeah, man, holy shit. Like, what a fucking wild story. And narratively, there's some problems with it, but it is a very tight, like it's a tightly loose story. There's no like plot holes. There's no like loopholes or anything like that. It's a very tightly written and well, for the most part, well executed. There's some like storytelling I sometimes do these, from the perspective of a writer, because I too like to write. I have not published anything, but I'd like to eventually one day, hopefully. So this is something that, as a writer, every now and again, I'm like, there's a lot of narration. Like I'll get out my gripes even right now that there's a lot of characters in this arc that I will not cover really that much during this Lore Lords, for the most part, because they just serve like one singular purpose to the plot, and then they're just kind of shoehorned in and thrown in there for other reasons. There's a character named like Ikago, for example, who's really not all that important. Like he helps devise a plan, but he's not that crazy important. There's like another character, her name is Palm. She's kind of there for humor for the most part, and her power, which is basically a crystal ball where she can spy on people. And that's cool, but you could have even just come up with like a piece of technology that does the same thing. So like every now and again, I'm like, you didn't need a character for that, but okay. However, the characters definitely sort of add like a more three-dimensional aspect to it. They want to make this look like an actual operation. Like there's this, and you'll understand what I mean as time goes on. But before I get into this arc, let me just do, for Atlas's sake and for anybody else who has never seen or even heard of Hunter x Hunter, I won't be saying Hunter x Hunter, I'll be saying Hunter x Hunter because it's just easier to say. Let me sort of break down this world for you guys. So the world is actually kind of very similar to our own. So there's modern technology. There is, there's like computers and cell phones and every like roads and highways and skyscrapers and big cities and all sorts of crazy shit like that. Except for planes, they use airships, which are basically giant blimps. So that's kind of cute. But anyway.
Okay, so World War I never happened. Got it.
Yeah, kind of like, and in the known world, which is what it's referred to as, it's all human. It's human dominated, the known world. But there are magical beasts, so that's one of the things that's big in this story. That there are just like beasts that we cannot explain that are sort of magical and mystical and interesting. And we find out in the very last arc of the show that the known world that the humans live on is actually just a very small section of the world as a whole, and that there are continents and lands far beyond where humans live that are undiscovered and unexplored, and which is really, really cool. Which gets me to explain what hunters are. Hunters aren't just the traditional, like in our universe, that are just people who just go out and hunt animals for food and stuff like that. There are hunters are basically anybody at all who is an incredibly talented, intelligent, like physically fit individual who goes and like basically is a specialist of any kind. There's something called a gourmet hunter, which basically means they're hunters that go around the world seeking the most delicious foods of all time. There are blacklist hunters, which are people who are basically bounty hunters, so they go after criminals and stuff like that. There are like magical beast hunters, so they go out and just try to like search for new magical beasts and try to write them down, which is actually a big part of this arc that we're going to be talking about. One of the main characters in this arc named Kite. He is a magical beast hunter where his whole job is basically to discover new species and like, categorize them, jot them down, and understand them better. There's other hunters too, just like regular old, animal hunters too. And there's hunters that just are out there trying to find new treasures. They're trying to create big, beautiful things. Like there's a character named Gene Freaks, who's basically his entire his entire purpose of being a hunter is that he just basically wants to, like have fun. It's just kind of his whole thing. We barely see him in the show, but he's like very important because the main character Gon is the son of Gene Freaks, and his entire purpose his entire like main goal in the story is to find his dad. He's never met his dad before. His dad abandoned him when he was a baby to become a hunter. But rather than being like a jaded kid being like, my dad left me when I was a kid, like all the fucking nerds I'm just joking, by the way. That's like that's a very that's very sad. Like, but Gon takes a different perspective, and he thinks to himself, well, if my dad wanted to become a hunter instead of raise a child, that must mean being a hunter is an unbelievably cool thing to do. So I'm going to find my dad and ask him why he wanted to be a hunter. And that's basically the entire plot of the show, is Gon Freaks going out to try to find his dad. And as time goes on, we learn slowly and steady. Like the first arc is him taking the hunter exam and becoming a hunter. Then the second arc is him just trying to like get stronger to prove to his dad that he's strong. And then the third one is blah, blah, blah. And like he just keeps going on and on.
You said this is modern, right? So are these people that go hunt monsters with guns and stuff?
Some of them.
Okay.
But we'll get into like there is like a mystical ability kind of like, I guess akin to Kai or Ki in Dragon Ball. You know what I mean? So there are mystical abilities that we'll get into, and we'll talk about it because we're going to have to like break it down in this. It's called Nen. We'll get to it. It's more logic based. It's a little bit more unique than Ki, like whereas in Dragon Ball and Ki it's like you use Ki to power up, shoot blasts and stuff. Nen is kind of like there's 6 different types of Nen users, and we'll get into that a little later. And one of them is kind of like that, but one of the other 5 are very different. And it's very individual, which I like it. It's very much like in your individuality is very, very important in order to develop your Nen. Which is like the common phrase is, oh, your Nen. What's your Nen? Like that's kind of like a phrase that's often said. And that's something that Gon and the other main character, Kilowatt, have to learn. My 2 favorite characters, by the way, in this show and in this story aren't even in this arc. They're named Kurapika and Liario. I love them so much, and they're not even in this arc because they're like, what I do love about the writer, Yasuhiro Togashi, is he's very good at like writing motivations. So like Liario and Kurapika's, their motivations would not put them in this arc. Like even though they're 2 of the main characters, it'd be basically forcing characters into an arc that they just don't belong in. So it's like it doesn't. So which I appreciate as a writer. I'm like, no, like the only reason that you could probably say is they went with their friends Gon and Kilowatt, but like really, there's no good motivation. So anyway, let's talk about those 2 main characters, Gon and Kilowatt, that are in the arc. So like I said, Gon is just trying to find his dad. And Kilowatt is a member of the Zoldyck family, and the Zoldyck family is a famous family of assassins. Everybody's heard of these guys. They all know about the Zoldyck family, and nobody fucks with them. And people who try to fuck with them never make it out alive. They live on this gigantic mountain that is surrounded by a massive wall, and you cannot get in unless you are able to pass a testing gate, which is basically a giant, concrete door that weighs tons of pounds, tons, literal tons. And in order to open the gate, you have to be able to be strong enough and focus your energy enough and, kind of develop your power. And if you try to pass through the door in any other way, like you try to just scale the wall, for example, they have magical beasts that are subjected to the Zoldyck family that will just straight up fucking kill you. Anyway, Kilowatt, though, on the other hand, he left his family because he doesn't want to be an assassin. He just kind of wants to be a normal kid. However, he is a killing machine. He got his first kill, I believe, at 6 years old. He was sent on his first mission and killed somebody. He is immune to poison and electricity because when he was growing up, his family basically tortured him with those things to make him immune.
Super cool.
But it was very loving. His family loves him still. They did all these things because they wanted to make him so powerful. And so, basically a fine-tuned weapon. So they didn't do it out of malice or hatred for Kilowatt. They did it because they love him and they wanted him to be the best assassin ever. Of course. Anyway, we'll talk about some of the Zoldycks do show up in this arc and some of the other ones. The names are Zeno and Silva. Silva is Kilowatt's father and Zeno is his grandfather. So they'll come in a little bit later. But not quite yet. So at the very beginning of this arc starts at the end of the last one, where Gon and Kilowatt they're convinced that they're about to finally meet Gon's father, Gene, and they're so excited. And when they show up, they are met by a different guy. His name is Kite. And this guy, Kite, is actually Gene's apprentice. So it was somebody who was trained by Gon's father. So it is still connection, and it's still it's just yet another breadcrumb leading to his dad. But Kite's a really cool character because he's the magical beast hunter that I mentioned earlier. His job as a magical beast hunter is to discover new species and jot them down, make notes of them, and to and not necessarily kill them. He's a hunter, but he's not I'm gonna kill them. No, he just wants to he's more or less is I guess a zoologist in some ways. He just wants to understand. However, right out of the gate, we learn about Chimera ants, which I love that. It's very good storytelling that this character, Kite, is already incredibly knowledgeable on the thing that we're going to be talking about throughout this entire this episode. So
I'm guessing the Chimera Ant is a mythical monster, like you were talking about, that exists.
It's a magical beast.
Okay, perfect.
Chimera ants are magical beasts. So Chimera ants are really, for the most part, they're basically kind of like ants. They look like ants. Surprise. At least that is what they are in their evolution, their early evolution. But the Chimera ants have literally one single goal shared amongst them all in some sort of hive mind, and that is simply give birth to the king that will rule over the world. That is it. They all are to serve the king. They are all to do that. That is their main purpose. But the unique thing about Chimera ants is everything that they consume, they will take on the traits of, especially with their offspring in particular. So if a Chimera ant, for example, eats a pill bug, its shell might be stronger. If a Chimera ant eats a spider, it might have spider senses like Spider-Man. No,
but these are these things the size of ants?
Yes. At the beginning, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So actually, at the very beginning of this arc, we Gon and Kilowatt are like, "Hey, are you my dad, Gene?" And then all of a sudden, this creepy, tall-looking man, because Kite's kind of creepy-looking, he takes off his cloak and he just pulls out a gun and just unloads on a pile of Chimera ants that are no bigger than the palm of your hand. So they're kind of big, I guess. But they're not gonna hurt you. You know what I mean? They'll bite you. You'll say ow, and then you'll step on it and kill it. So these Chimera ants that we see at the very beginning of the arc are no threat at all. And then he's just kind of watch out, you almost got bit by these Chimera ants, and we don't want to give them any human flesh. Do not give them human flesh. Because, again, they take on the traits of the things that they eat. Meanwhile, there is a Chimera Ant Queen that washed up on the shores of a continent called the Mitanni Union, which is basically a continent that has, I think, 5 or 6 countries to it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It has 5 different countries attached to it. And this Chimera ant ends up washing up onto a place called the NGL. And we'll get into that a little bit later. That's just the acronym. The NGL stands for the Neo Green Life Autonomous Region. Again, we'll get into that a little bit more. And this Chimera Ant Queen, she's missing an arm, by the way, and that's how Kite figures out that there's something going on, is because somebody discovered the arm in their other country where they live. I forget exactly what that one's called, because they all got kind of different names. But on the continent that they live on, which is like north, because it washed up on shore, and then some rich guy was like, "Whoa, look at the size of this insect arm! I'm gonna put it in a museum." And then Kite brings Gon Kilowatt to meet his basically his team, because he's got like a team of magical beast hunters as well that he's put together. They're all capable young hunters themselves, and they all get together and they find this Chimera ant arm, and Kite immediately is like, "Oh fuck, that's the size of a normal human arm. That's not good. That's not good at all. Like, the fact that there's a Chimera ant the size of a person sucks." And this Chimera Ant Queen is hiding in a cave, eating fish, birds, bats, cats, small dogs, other animals, and stuff like that, which already, if you think about it, is already like, uh-oh. Like, these aren't just other insects eating other insects. No, these things are eating animals now, like rabbits, all sorts of different small animals. And the entire time, though, the queen is complaining, like, "These aren't nutritious enough foods. I need better foods. This food sucks." So she starts giving birth to soldier ants that are kind of dumb. They're big and humanoid. They're the size of humans. So the Chimera Ant Queen, along with like these soldier ants, are now the size of people, maybe even bigger. So like 6 feet, 7 feet tall, and which is kind of horrifying to think about, that these giant ants are just walking around this place called the NGL. So the NGL, let's talk about that a little bit more, is called the Neo Green Life Autonomous Region, and it is the only country in the known world that abandons technology altogether. There's no technology there. You're not allowed to have technology. Basically, it's like ultra hippie zone, where everybody lives off of the land. All their houses are made from wood that they chop down, straw roofs. It's very old school. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They don't believe in technology. And if you're found with technology in the NGL, you will be executed on the spot.
Oh, cool.
And it's not a nice place, really. However, most of the people there are just trying to live honest, natural lives. It is actually a front. The NGL is kind of a lie, which is unfortunate. And it is actually a front by a guy named Gyro, who is their secret underground leader. And his entire thing is he owns like a big factory that produces drugs and illegal weapons that are sold on the black market.
Got it.
Yeah. So he uses the excuse of, this autonomous green zone, but really it's just a front for like really nefarious purposes.
Right.
Aren't
they all?
Yeah, it's super sad about that. And of course, this is like the perfect storm. So this Chimera Ant Queen washes up on a shore with no technology, so there's no immediate way to know what's going on. So like, there's nobody who can just pull out a cell phone and be like, "Hey, giant bugs are kidnapping people. Help."
Yeah.
Like, there's none of that. Like, it takes a long time for people to realize something's going on, which of course, this alludes to, these ant soldiers start to abduct people. And the first humans that get got are actually 2 children, a 4 and a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old girl and a 5-year-old boy named Raina and Kurt. And they get snatched up and they get eaten by the Chimera Ant Queen. And for the first time, the Chimera Ant Queen gives birth to more humanoid soldiers, and they are actually intelligent and able to speak. The first one being a squadron leader named Colt, who I love Colt as a character. He's a very cool character. And so Colt is born, and he is then, and along with a bunch of other squadron leaders, so they're in charge now of the dumb Chimera ants. So there's a hierarchy that's literally being built. So first it was just kind of dumb, lowly soldier ants. Now squadron leaders are being born. And they're much more intelligent. They have, they execute their orders. They can actually speak. They can actually use words. So that's interesting too. And they can grow, and they also have different parts of animals. So like the Chimera Ant Colt, for example, he's part ant, part bird, and part human. So he has like a bunch of different animal sort of like genetics going on.
So you said earlier,
right,
that the Ant Queen was thinking about how things weren't nutritious.
Yes.
Are these sentient, or were those animal thoughts?
I mean, those were like animal thoughts, basically. Like the way it's like in her head. Like she kind of speaks. She can speak telepathically towards the stupid soldier ants, but the telepathic thoughts are very much more on the akin of like just orders, like do this, do that.
So when they start becoming part human, are they becoming like human intelligent?
Oh yeah, big time.
Okay.
Big time. So these soldier ants start going out and trying to hunt down people now. So because humans are way more nutritious than just random fish. So Colt and Colt and the other squad leaders are ordered to bring 50 people a day. And I think there's something on the lines at the beginning of like 14 squadrons or something like that. So that's kind of a lot of fucking people. The NGL has like millions of people in it though. So don't worry. There's plenty of people to eat.
It reminds me of the, there's a Warhammer 40,000 group called the Gene Stealer Cults that this is very similar to.
Maybe it was even inspired by it. I don't know. Could be. That sounds cool. But anyway, so... and Colt is bear in mind, being the main squadron leader that I'm going to focus on, is actually a very dutiful squadron leader. He believes in the direct orders that he is given, and hunts with like genuine morality. Like he doesn't believe in hunting over the quota. He's like, once we get 50 people, that's it. We're not going to touch anymore because we have to make sure that the humans can breed and have more children. The human. Yeah. Okay. No, I said that right. Humans can breed and have more kids. So he's like, I don't want to overhunt. However, there are other Chimera Ant squadron leaders that don't give a fuck, who are like there's one named Leol, for example, who is part lion, by the way, and his which is scary to think about. Yeah, and he doesn't care. He's just like, I'm gonna fucking hunt as many people as I want. There's another one named like Raboot or something like that, or Robit or something like that. He's part rabbit, surprise, and bird. He's like bird, rabbit, and human and ant, like. And he goes and he doesn't give a shit. So he orders his squadron to like do whatever the fuck they want. So they're like hunting more than 50 people and just like eating them themselves and be like, they're super yummy. And then Colt's like, no, they're for the queen. You're not allowed to eat that. You can eat the leftovers, because Colt's very dutiful and honest. Because, and like the reason why he is because the boy, Kurt, that was first eaten was actually a very dutiful, earnest young boy. And so he's taking on not only the physical traits of this young boy, but even the personality traits of these young boys. So bear in mind that you're not just gaining the traits, the physical genetics of these, of the things that you eat, you're gaining the personalities of them too. So, while this is going on, eventually Gyro, the leader of the NGL, starts sending out his stormtroopers that are basically like, they're literally like soldiers wearing all white. They wear white masks, white vests, white sweatpants, basically, with machine guns. And they're like, all right, go kill these things that are killing our people. We have to kill them. So he starts sending out these stormtroopers to go take out the ants. And for a while, there's a couple scenes where you just watch these soldiers just mowing down ant soldiers, like dumb, stupid ant soldiers. Like, and at first you're kind of like, oh, well, this is kind of solving the problem, right? Well, yeah, for a little while. But unfortunately, these soldiers start getting got themselves. And when that happens, the Chimera Ant Queen is now eating people who have malice and hatred in their hearts, which means she's going to give birth to more Chimera ants with a lot of malice, hatred, and evil intention. What a surprise. Slowly and steadily, the NGL gets overtaken. All of these factories that were once made to create drugs and weapons get overwhelmed with Chimera ants, and all of them get wiped out and killed. And from what we understand, we don't actually know if Gyro is killed or if he got out. So we don't. That's literally never told. The leader or not, we don't know. And at this point, like kind of switching back over to our heroes, they know something's going on. Kite's a little bit nervous because he saw the size of the Chimera Ant Queen's arm and is like, this is bad. Like if she starts eating people, this is going to be a huge fucking issue. So they make their way to the NGL, and they are allowed in after they ditch all their technology and everything like that. So they make their way in and they start looking around. But bear in mind, they're not the only hunter team that has been called in. Another hunter team led by a guy named Pokal, I think that's how you pronounce his name, who we met in a previous arc. So we met this guy Pokal during the hunter exam arc. He's actually like a hunter, a traditional hunter. Like he hunts animals and he's very like, he uses a bow and arrow and stuff. And he has his girlfriend Pozu with him. And Pozu is also somebody we met in the previous arc as well, where her ability is she kind of uses like poison gas and toxins to her favor. And she has a big old yellow hat that works as a home for hornets, basically, and she can tell her hornets and wasps to do whatever she wants them to. So she can like order them around, send messages, attack her enemies and stuff.
There's a bee assassin.
Yeah. She's cute though. She doesn't really use her things to kill. She's not really so much an assassin as she is just kind of like again, kind of just like a beast hunter. She's just more of like a traditional hunter. So she goes with Pokal to the NGL as well, but they kind of sneak in illegally. They don't go the normal routes like Kite, Gon, and Kilowatt do. They kind of go in, and they have a little bit of a team themselves. And once they get there, they start seeing that there are these giant chimera ants that are kidnapping people and killing them. And right away, Poko's like, oh, we got to get the fuck out of here. This is too much for just a small group. We got to go back. We got to tell the whole Hunter Association, Chairman Naturo, who's the leader of the Hunter Association, Chairman Naturo. And he's like, oh, we got to go back there and talk to him. We got to tell everybody what's going on because this shit is way above our pay grades. But unfortunately, his team starts getting picked off one by one. And his team is full of Nen users, which again, we'll start getting into a little bit more now. And as these Nen users get picked off and given to the Chimera Ant Queen, the Queen starts just, she's like, these humans, these ones with these abilities, they're the most delicious and nutritious humans. Get me more of them. They can use this thing that I don't understand, but boy, howdy, are they yummy as fuck. Which makes a lot of sense because Nen users are basically awakened people. They're people who can use special abilities and stuff like that, which again, we'll get into a little bit later on. And that's bad news for the rest of our team. Because now the Chimera Ants are starting to be born with the potential of using Nen powers, which again, like I said, we'll get into. And so Pokal and Ponzu, he warns her, get the fuck out of here, run, get out of here, try to warn other hunters as soon as you can. And unfortunately, Pokal gets stung by a Chimera Ant who has the bit like who's part scorpion, and he gets paralyzed, and he gets brought to the Queen. But Pokal, because he is a professional hunter, he's not going to get taken down that easily. He takes an anti-venom, an anti-serum, and he's able to escape their clutches briefly and hide. So Pokal is now hiding inside of the Chimera Ant castle, which has been built out of mud and dung because it's a bug thing. So that's what bugs build their homes out of is mud and poop. So there's just this gigantic, but it's like, it's the size for people. So it's just this massive poop castle.
I was hoping you're going to say like the bodies of the dead or something like that, but no, it was just shit.
It's just poop. No, they're insects. They're not smart enough to do something.
Well, they're
like
part
that.
human now.
Well, that's true. They are getting part human, but no, they keep their ant instincts on that one. It's poop and mud is a much more abundant resource.
True.
So, and at this point, by the way, the Chimera Ant Queen is telling everybody to bring 100 humans a day, no longer 50. So more people, more food for the Queen. So Kite, Gon, and Kilowatt make their way into the NGL. They start getting deeper and deeper. They see that there's empty villages. They're seeing that things are going wrong, and they're like, uh-oh. And they even come across a few Chimera Ants themselves and dispatch them quickly, though, because they're soldier ants, and Gon, Kilowatt, and Kite, especially Kite, are very capable fighters at this point in the story. Like Gon and Kilowatt, they're both they're like 13 years old in the story at this point, but they're super stupid strong. So they do a pretty fine job. And but eventually, so going back to our cute friend Pozu, who has that little bee hat that we were talking about, that yellow bee hat, she's trying to run away. She's like, okay, I got to get the fuck out of here. I have to warn hunters as soon as possible. So she makes a note for her wasps to send to the strongest hunters as close as possible, like the closest hunters that are around. Like, okay, I'm sending a message that this is what's going on. And right after she sends out this message, she gets shot in the face by a Chimera Ant who discovered pistols. Like, oh, nice. And the Chimera Ant is basically a sadistic son of a bitch who just keeps, even after she's dead, he just keeps loading into her with pistols, and he's just laughing like, these things are awesome. I love guns. So so passes the cute, adorable character Ponzu. She gets just, and like the episode where she dies is called Tragic and Savage because she's literally just like annihilated. And then right after she's done being shot to death, that Chimera Ant eats her body. Shortly thereafter, Gon, Kilowatt, and Kite find her remains, and they find all that's left is her hat, some scraps of clothing, and a big pile of blood. That's it. There's no body parts, no skin, nothing at all. Just like she's just dead as fuck. And they recognize it too. Like Gon and Kilowatt recognize the hat, and they start getting pissed off. And Kite's immediately like, "Oh shit, this is getting way heavier." And he keeps turning to them like, "Hey guys, are you sure you don't want to leave? Because this is gonna get kind of crazy. Are you sure you don't want to go?" And they're like, "No," especially now because Gon saw one of his friends basically dead. He's just like, no, he wants revenge. Obviously, he's starting to get this feeling like, no, we have to see this through. We have to take out this Chimera Ant Queen before she can give birth to the king. That's nice. So where are we right now? I gotta look at my notes again. Yeah, so they find the remains, and shortly after they find the remains, the first royal guard is born. So this is, remember that we were talking about the ant hierarchy, the soldier ants, the squadron leaders, and then above that are the royal guard. And the first of the royal guard is born. Her name is Neferpito, who's my favorite of the royal guard. I love Neferpito. She's a really cool character with a really interesting arc. And she's born, and she is part ant, part human, and part cat.
Oh.
Yes. So her instincts, survival instincts, and her senses are off the fucking chart. So she can sense things like a mile away, basically. She can just she's very, very attuned. And royal guards
Is she a sexy cat lady?
I wouldn't say sexy, more kind of cute, honestly. Like she's kind of cute. Like her character design is kind of cute, to be honest. She's an evil, sadistic son of a bitch, but she's cute.
Got it.
and insanely powerful. These royal guards are stronger than most Nen users and most of the hunters. Like she could beat probably 80 if not 90% of the hunters that exist in the known world. Like the royal guard are stupid powerful. And right out of the gate, right after she's born, she introduces herself to the squadron leaders, and all the squadron leaders are like, "Oh, holy shit, she's like way above us. Oh my God." They can just feel her power. And she, using her senses that she just kind of is born with and attuned with, she senses Pokol hiding under a pile of human bones. And that poor boy who managed to escape for a time ends up getting caught immediately. And none of the other, and she notices him immediately, and none of the other ants had any idea he was hiding. So, and right away Pokol's like, "Oh, fuck." So what does she do? Well, she wants to understand her powers more, because she doesn't understand how she could sense him. She doesn't understand anything about that, but she knows that he does. So what she does is she basically lobotomizes Pokol, cuts off the top of his scalp, and starts picking at his brain, forcing him to tell her everything that there is to know about Nen, which is what we'll do now. We're going to talk about Nen.
Yeah.
And talk about the powers.
Do we get to lobotomize you?
Yeah, lobotomize me right now. I could use it.
All right. I'm feeling it around in your brain right now, so you're going to tell us about this.
This is what she does. It's actually like a really gross and brutal scene. It's like for 5 minutes straight, we just see this character who we kind of grew to like a little bit, just getting his brain, like he's basically fucking dead at this point, and he's just getting his brain picked at by this cat lady. And so he starts telling her everything. And what Nen is every single human being, maybe even every single living creature on this planet, has the ability to use Nen. And sometimes if you can unleash your Nen by working really hard on something and finding your specialty, or you can get Nen brought out of you by way of fighting somebody with Nen. So say if you had your Nen powers unlocked and I did not, you could punch me really hard, using some of your aura, which is what it's referred to as, it's like aura, and you could awaken my Nen because of that. And that's actually how the Chimera ants start to do that. So basically they just kind of spend a lot of time punching each other, to awaken Nen abilities. It's kind of funny. So she just discovers that there are 6 different types of Nen users. There are, and I'm going to tell you about them right. I lost the page that I was looking at. Oh no. Oh God. Well, I can kind of. Oh, here we go. So there are 6 different types. There are enhancer types, emission types, transmuter types, manipulators, conjurers, and specialists. And those are all defined like an enhancer is basically they can strengthen themselves for other objects. So basically think of Goku. Like Goku is a great example of who would be an enhancer. With hard work and training, you basically just make yourself stronger. And Gon, the main character, he's an enhancer. A transmuter is somebody who can change the quality of their aura to match something else. So Kilowatt, the other main character in this, he is a transmuter. He's able to transform his aura and then into electricity, which is pretty badass, actually. Emitters are able to detach their aura from their body. So think of like Kai Blasts, for example. Like a Kai Blast would be an emission aura type thing to do. In Dragon Ball. Manipulators they can control and manipulate things, which is pretty straightforward. Anything from living things to non-living things. And conjurers, again, pretty easy to understand, they are able to conjure things. One of the main characters, Kurapika, who's not in this arc, he's a conjurer. He's able to conjure, and his specialty is that he conjures chains. And the chains do different things. He has a chain for each finger, and each finger chain does something different. And then the sixth type is called a specialist, which is basically the other way of saying other. So other powers that don't fall into those other 5 categories can fall under specialist. So an example of a specialist is there's another character in a different arc. His name is Chrollo. And Chrollo is able to basically, he has a book. And once he meets somebody with a unique power, he can then copy their power as long as he has his book open, which makes him, by the way, insanely powerful. This character Chrollo is stupid powerful. And he uses all sorts of different powers throughout the arc that we see him in. And so, and right away, Neferpito discovers that she is a conjurer, and she is able to create a thing called Dr. Blythe. She basically conjures a doctor out of her body that can basically heal almost any mortal wound or any wounds whatsoever. And the more that she uses this Dr. Blythe, the more intelligent Dr. Blythe becomes. So like the first time Dr. Blythe heals an arm, for example, it's going to do a good job, but it might take a while. The second time it heals an arm, it's going to do it even better and more efficiently. So, it learns as time goes on. And some of these powers are fucking wild. Like Dr. Blythe is creepy looking. But she also Neferpito learns how to conjure other puppet masters. So she basically uses her puppets to control soldiers later on. It's pretty wild. So she ends up finding out all about this Nen stuff by way of picking at Pokel's brain. And right after she's like, okay, I understand now. Thanks a lot. Go feed him to the queen. So then Pokel gets, unfortunately, eaten by the queen. And of course, he's a very nutritious meal too, as you can imagine. Oh, he's a yummy, yummy boy. So then at that point, Neferpito decides, man, I'm a royal guard. I'm insanely powerful. I gotta test my power. I really wish there was somebody around, someone close by who I could test my abilities on, So she goes outside and is like, I guess I'll just scout around and make sure that there are no threats that are going to threaten the queen. So she goes outside and looks around, and lo and behold, who does she see? Oh, she sees our 3 fellers. Our boys Gon, Kilowatt, and Kite. She sees them about a mile off and immediately is like, got 'em! Starts basically rubbing her hands together like, I'm gonna fuck these boys up. And Kite kind of senses that something bad is about to happen, like really fucking bad. And in a split second, she launches herself from the castle over to where they are in a split second. She's a mile away too. And she just fires herself over there. And in that moment, Kite tries to push his arm back to protect Gon and Kilowatt. And she just tears off Kite's arm. So immediately Kite loses his arm, and Gon sees this and starts getting pissed. So he just starts kind of raging like Goku does. He's just even in the same position where he's flexing his arms, he's like, what the hell did you do? But Kilowatt, on the other hand, being the more logical friend, is like, we can't fight her. She's too strong. If we try fighting her, we will fucking die. So he immediately knocks Gon out, does not hold back any of his strength, just knocks him the fuck out, picks him up, and gets the fuck out of there as fast as he possibly can to leave Kite to challenge Neferpito alone. And we're going to fast forward 2 days where Gon finally wakes up. So they Gon and Kilowatt leave the NGL and arrive at a place called Doli City, which is not, so it's not part of that. It's a different country. I forget exactly which country it is. Exactly. Where is it? Doli City is small, densely populated, close to the NGL. It doesn't even say where it is exactly. Whatever. So they end up going there to recover. And when Gon wakes up, Kilo was like, sorry, I didn't mean to knock you out, but we had to get out of there really quickly. Gon's like, oh, I forgive you, but we have to go and rescue Kite. Well, little does Gon know, Kite's dead. Neferpito killed him. And like you see after Gon says, we're going to go rescue Kite, like a typical Shonen Jump anime protagonist. He's like, we're going to go rescue our friend. Yeah. It just hard cuts to Neferpito sitting cross-legged with Kite's head in her lap. She's just like petting his head like, that was so much fun. Oh, I want to fight you again. I want to fight you again so bad. You're so much fun to fight. And that's how she develops her ability of Dr. Blythe. Because she basically puts Kite back together. I mean, he's dead, so his soul is gone. Like, there's no more Kite soul. He's basically just a puppet to use as training for the other soldier ants. So she basically makes his dead corpse, like, fight soldier ants to get them, to awaken their nen and, like, train them and get ready to fight humans. And it's, like, really sadistic and fucked up. It's really sad, too. But Gon has no idea. Gon is just like, nah, Kite's too strong. He wouldn't have been taken out by that. No way. Nah, man. Dead as fuck. So while all this is going on, word has reached like the main leaders of the known world. So like a lot of the presidents and Congress people and dictators in the known world are all like, okay, something's going on in the NGL that is way more intense than we thought. We have to do something about this right now. So they call the Hunter Association and contact Chairman Naturo. So Chairman Naturo is already like, this sounds kind of dangerous. Yeah, I guess you guys do need my help, huh? Well, all right, no problem. I'll put a team together. So he puts a team together of some of the best hunters in the game. This guy named Moral and Nove. Moral has the ability to basically use smoke and summon anything. So he's a conjurer type of Nen user. He summons smoke armies. He can make smoke cages. He's really cool. He's a fun character. And then Nove, I think you'd like Nove a lot because his ability is basically portals. He can create portals and go in and out of a pocket dimension. Which allows him to like go freely between places. All he has to do is he has to go to a physical place, create a portal with his finger, and then from there he can just like open it and close it at any time he wants.
So he has like a network.
Yeah, and I forget what he calls it. But he calls it something along the lines of like his dimension mansion or something like that. I forget what exactly it's called, but like it's basically just like a gigantic mansion full of empty like white rooms that he can just like do whatever he wants with, basically. And it's funny because our heroes use that quite a few times in this story to like regroup. So they'll use his little pocket dimension, and there'll just be a bunch of snacks and water and places to rest for them. So like he'll be like, all right, after we just fought a bunch of Chimera ants, we'll go back down into this pocket dimension, chill out for a bit, eat some snacks, relax for a bit, then pop back out and fight more. Like, so it's a nice safety thing. And he also can use his portals as a weapon. He has an ability called Scream, which he uses with his two hands, and he can basically like it's actually like absurdly powerful, and he can use it to like wrap around an enemy and then close the portal. So he basically just separates.
Right. I was going to say cutting things in half with portals.
Yeah, he can basically cut people in half with portals, but like nothing can resist it because it's not about how strong you are.
Yeah, it's just reality breaking.
Yeah, it's basically reality breaking. So he's a really cool character. I like Moral and Nova a lot. They're great. They have underlings named Knuckle and Shoot who are going to go with them. I like Knuckle a lot. He's one of my favorite characters. I'm not going to go into Knuckle's ability because it's genuinely confusing and I don't understand it.
No.
Because it's called APR. And he charges... all right, I'm going to try to explain it. So when he punches somebody... He gives them something called APR, which is this cute little floating guy. And every 10 seconds, APR accumulates interest.
There's this little thing named APR?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it gathers interest. But the interest that it's gathering isn't money, it's Nen. So what he basically does is Knuckle punches you, he gives you some of his Nen, and then APR forms. And every 10 seconds, APR charges you interest. And then after a while, it will transform into IRS.
Wow.
And IRS then clings to you for one whole month, and it makes you not allowed to use any of your Nen abilities. You literally cannot summon your Nen. It's a very powerful move.
And it just seems like it seems like a mechanic for like a League of Legends hero. Or you know what I mean? Like something like that. Like that's so video gamey.
It's very video gamey, and it's just so funny. I love Knuckle though. He's a great character because he's super aggressive and tough guy, but he has a soft spot for animals. Like every time a stray dog goes up to him, he just starts crying and wants to take care of it. And Shoot's kind of cool too. He has the ability of like he summons floating hands that are, I don't know if he summons them. I think they're actually just part of his thing. And he also has this cage that he can make you small and shove you in the cage basically, and you can't escape unless he lets you out. So he's kind of cool too. But he's weak-willed. He has a weak heart. Poor little Shoot. And so, but Gon and Killua, they want to go back to the NGL and help out. So they're like really determined to get back in there. However, Nov and Moral and Chairman Netero are like, you guys can't go in unless you prove yourselves capable enough to do it, because this mission is going to be intense and we don't want you to be a liability. If you're going to come in there and you're just going to make us have to protect you, then we're going to fail this mission. So you have to be able to handle yourselves. So they get challenged to take on Knuckle and Shoot in order to prove which of the pairs are stronger, Knuckle or Shoot or Gon or Killua. Spoiler alert, Gon and Killua end up losing. So for one whole month, Gon can't use any of his Nen abilities. So during this month, so the Chimera Ant Queen is still feeding, still eating a bunch of shit, and has given birth now to 2 more of the royal guards named Shiapoof, and I'm going to try to pronounce this other one because it's really hard, Mantatuyupi. They all have nicknames, so I'm going to refer to their nicknames. Neferpito's nickname is Pito, Shiapoof's nickname is Poof, and Mantatuyupi, his nickname is Yuppie. So I'm going to call them by that from now on, just because I can't pronounce that guy's name. And they all have different personalities. So Neferpito's personality is she's a cat, so she's very curious. She wants to learn, and she's very excitable. So she's like, oh yeah, let's go do this thing. Shiapoof is part butterfly, so he's a very elegant and regal royal. I fucking hate Shiapoof. I hate Poof. He's my least favorite. I hate him so much. He's also like the most easily the most evil of the guards, like pure evil. And then Yuppie is just kind of dumb. He's just kind of a dumb, strong brute, and he even admits it. He's just like occasionally throughout the season, he'll just be like, "I just don't think. I'm just not gonna think. I'm just gonna do. That's it." It's pretty funny. I like Yuppie. He's a funny guy, and he's got some cool powers too. So those guys are born and like continuing to wait for the king to be born. Meanwhile, Moral and Nov make their way into the NGL, and they start dispatching lowly ant squadrons like crazy. They take out shitloads of different squadrons. So a lot of the soldier ants and a lot of squadron leaders are getting owned by the hunters, and they're kicking some serious ass. But unfortunately, before they can make their way to the castle to take out the queen finally gives birth to the king, the Chimera Ant King, who is kind of like, think of Frieza. Like, he's basically like has the power of Frieza. He is absurdly powerful. Basically nobody that we like can think of that can really beat him. Like even Chairman Netero, who's like supposedly one of the most powerful hunters, like he ends up fighting him later on, and we'll get to that. But like he's even like, oh, this is gonna be a fucking rough one. He's like, oh boy. Okay. And the king is a savage. He comes out. He doesn't just come out of his mom's womb. He busts out of his mother's womb. He rips his mother apart to the point where she is suffering and bleeding out horribly. And right away, there is another Chimera Ant named Peggy, who is the scholar Chimera Ant. And actually, Madam Pixie Stick shared a GIF earlier in the Discord, my Discord, of Peggy getting decapitated by the king. So Peggy sees the queen lying and bleeding on the ground, and he immediately is like, "Oh no, Queenie! Oh geez, no!" and tries to run up to her, and the king just cuts his head off. He's just like, "Fuck you! You're not paying attention to me. You're paying attention to my mom. I don't care about my mom. She's a stupid, worthless piece of shit," and kills Peggy. That immediately makes the other ants, like they're like, "Oh, he's evil. Like this Ant King is fucking evil." But they all kind of just bow down to him because they're all like so scared. And then the royal guards show up, and they're like, "What up, king? What up, dog? We're going to be royal guards. Let's be buddies. Let's be pals." And the king is like, "All right, cool. Sounds good." And ends up just kind of like leaves with those guys.
So it's Frieza and the Ginyu Force.
It's basically Frieza and the Ginyu Force, yeah. So they kind of all like leave together, and the king is like, I'm famished, get me some food. So they tried to feed the king human meatballs, basically, and he hates them. They're like, ugh, they're tasteless and disgusting. We need to go find more food. Also, this castle's made out of mud and shit. I hate it. This is disgusting. We need a more regal castle fit for a king. So then the royal guard and the king leave the poop castle.
Yay.
And yay. But meanwhile, the rest of the soldier ants, including Colt, the one we mentioned earlier, the earnest and more honest of the soldier ants, he runs up to the queen and is like, oh God, we have to save her. We have to save her. And he does not like the king. He immediately in his head internally is like, I don't like him. I don't want to serve under him. I don't want to do this at all. I hate this. So what he does is he ends up he ties a white flag to like a stick and flies towards where Moral and Nove are. And Moral and Nove at first you're like, there's an ant coming. Let's get ready to fucking kill this thing. And then Nove's like, hey, wait a minute. He's got a white flag. Like, what the fuck? So then they end up talking to him, and immediately they say, please, I will do anything if you help us save our queen. She's dying. She's bleeding out. The king is evil. He's savage. And like he admits straight out to them, I do not want to serve him. I hate what this is becoming. This is way more than we bargained for. I don't want any part of this. And immediately Nove and Moral are like, all right, I guess. So they end up taking like a squadron of doctors over to the queen and to try to like help save her. And they stabilize her for a little bit, but she does end up inevitably dying, but not before she ends up naming the king Meruem. So she ends up, that's his name. His name is Meruem. And she does give him his name. Even though he doesn't know what his name is yet. The king left already, so he has no fucking idea what his name is, which actually isn't a very important, that actually is like a pretty important part in the story, that he doesn't know his name. So the queen dies and everyone's really sad about it. And a lot of the squadron leader ants, like some of them go off and are like, fuck that, I'm going to go serve the king. I'm not about to fight that guy. That guy's way too strong. Fighting him is suicide. I'm going to go join him. So some of them go and try to find the king to join him. And other Chimera ants are like, nah, fuck that. This guy's evil. There's a character named, why can I not remember his name off the top of my head? I literally just watched this season 2, so I really should kind of know. This is bothering me. Oh, Meleoron, right? Meleoron. He is part chameleon, so he has the ability. His power is really cool. If he holds his breath, he can literally become invisible and unsensible to the enemy. So even if like your senses are really good, you still won't be able to find him. Like it doesn't matter how your senses are. He literally becomes like unseeable, unfindable. He's just invisible, and he hates him too because Peggy was a good friend of his. And when he watched the king behead Peggy, he's like, "I'm not serving him. Fuck that guy. He killed my friend." So a lot of ants are starting to defect, which is great. It's good. It's good for the good guys. And so after a while, the Chimera Ant King and the royal guards, they leave the NGL and find their way to the country called East Gorto. And East Gorto is basically North Korea. It's a fascist nation where literally a guy who looks just like Kim Jong-un, I'm not even kidding. I really think that Togashi, the writer of Hunter x Hunter, was just like making fun of North Korea and
probably,
and yeah. So he writes this character who's this like fat, useless king, basically. And he calls himself king, and they find his palace. This is his big, beautiful looking palace. They bust down the doors, and immediately this guy, I'm just gonna call him Kim Jong-un, but his in-story name is Diego. I'm just gonna call him Kim Jong-un though. He's all like, "What are you doing in here? Don't you know who I am? I'm the leader of this great nation, and you're all about to die." And the Chimera Ant King's like, "What is this useless sack of shit? What is this thing?" Like, he tries to sense any power from him. He senses no power from him at all. He's like, he's got no abilities. He's just like, a leader there for no reason. But before he's like about to kill him, Neferpito suggests, "Hey, why don't you just kind of lobotomize him? Because we can use him to manipulate the people of his country. That way we don't just send all of his people into a panic. Because we're going to have to manipulate them in order to accomplish what is going to be their main goal, which is called the selection." And what the selection is they're going to gather up all of the people of East Gorto, which is millions of people, gather them all up and transform them into powerful soldier ants to then send out into the world and take over the world. Some of them will be food, obviously, for the king, but some of them will just turn into soldier ants, and then they'll use those to take over the world. and which is very scary. So what happens is they make Kim Jong-un do a live broadcast to the entire nation that says, hey, there's going to be a huge festival at the palace, and you're all welcome to come.
Of course, it's like North Korea, too.
Yeah, exactly. And so... and this does make international news. So like we kind of cut to different scenes, and people all over the world are like, whoa, this Diego guy is like inviting his people to his palace. That's insane. He doesn't do that very often, if at all. Like he never does something like that. So I wonder what this means. This is very interesting. Let's keep an eye on it for the news or whatever, for news sake. Meanwhile, Neferpito starts using her puppets to control Diego or Kim Jong-un's soldiers. So basically there's like, so she's keeping everybody in line. She's trying to keep everybody in their houses and nobody from leaving, but everybody's, this doesn't seem threatening. They're just like, oh, the dear leader is inviting us over for a party. I guess we should stay here and then go to this party. And it's mandatory that they all show up. That's the big thing. It's like, you have to come to this festival. There is like, you're not allowed to leave. You have to come. It's mandatory. And they're all like, well, this is a fascist country, so I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so as they proceed on, they're just kind of getting ready. But while he waits, the king is kind of bored. The king of the ants is bored. He's like, I'm going to eat some people, I guess, but I'm not going to go around and kill people. That's not my thing. What am I going to do? So what he does is he ends up telling his soldiers to kidnap the champions of East Gorto and other places in the Mitanay Union, which is the continent, the greater continent that they're on, and of different board games. So he ends up kidnapping like the lead chess player, shogi, go, a game called gungi, and they all kind of get brought in. And he, he'll lose the first like 5 or 10 games. So like he'll be going against the Go champion, and then but after he beats the champion, he'll just kill him. He's like, all right, I'm done with you. Kills him. And the champion of shogi ends up admitting, tells the king that he's feeling sick and that he would like to challenge the king when he is at his best health. So the king is like, all right, fine, go rest or whatever. And then they find him that he hung himself because he was like so scared and he didn't want to do it, so he hung himself.
Oh.
And in that moment, the king invites, and this is probably one of the most, if not the most important fucking character that is introduced in this story. More important than the king, more important than the royal guards, more important than Kite, is this character, this blind, dumb girl named Komogi. She is invited because she is the Gungi, which is the game that they're about to play, the Gungi world champion. And she's been the world champion for 5 years running now.
Is it a real game?
And I actually don't know. I should probably look that up because it looks kind of cool, honestly. Like the game itself looks really fun. It looks like kind of like 4D chess, and I'm into it. I'm super into it, actually. I wonder if I'm actually gonna look that up right now. Let's see if this is.
How do you spell it?
Please tell me.
G-U-N-G?
G-U-N-G-I. It's a 2-player strategy board game from the Republic of East Gorto. I don't know if it's real.
No, it's not real.
Damn it. No, it's not. Yeah, I just saw that too. I wish it was, though, because it looks really cool. But anyway, so Meruem, or actually he doesn't know his name, challenges Komogi to play him in Gungi. But he can't beat her. He just can't beat her. No matter how hard he tries. He likes to think that he's super smart. He's like, oh, all these games are all about interrupting your opponent's rhythm. All you have to do is interrupt your opponent's rhythm, and then you can beat them. It doesn't matter how many strategies they have in their pocket. Everybody has a rhythm, and all you got to do is thread that needle, and then you can take them out and win. However, he can't beat her. Komogi, and she's, I love her. She's a great character. She's very silly and dopey. Like, she just keeps calling him dear leader. She's like, she admits that she's stupid. She's like, oh, I have no use at all in life except for playing Gungi. I cannot do anything in life except play Gungi. It's the only thing that I'm good at. And so Meruem, or the king, is getting stressed out about this. And he's just like, God damn it, I want to beat this bitch, but I fucking can't. Meanwhile, Shia Poof, one of the royal guards, is getting concerned because Poof is looking at the king and is like, the king seems more interested in playing this board game than he does in anything else. He doesn't even seem to be thinking about the selection. We have an army to make, and he doesn't seem to give a shit. This is weird. But he kind of ignores it for now. He's like, whatever. Once he beats this stupid blind girl, he'll kill her and it'll be done. However, little does the king know, the king is actually really enjoying the game. He's just genuinely having a good time. And he wants to play more. And he's okay with the fact that he keeps losing because
Gamer
he's
alert.
just challenging for him.
Gamer alert.
Yeah, he's a gamer. So he's like, and so the king tries to he's like, all right, I'm going to screw with her rhythm psychologically. I'm going to play some psychological warfare with her. And he's like, all right, so here's what's going to happen. If you beat me again, I'll grant you anything you want. Anything that you could possibly desire, I'll give it to you. By the way, she never comes up with an answer. She has no idea what she wants. She's like, I don't fucking know. But if I win, I'm going to take your left arm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so normally that would freak anybody out. Like that would freak me out if somebody was like, "I'm going to cut your arm if I beat you." I'd be like, "Oh, okay." But Komogi just kind of calmly goes, "Well, sorry, I don't mean to dissuade your judgment, dear leader, but can I just bet what I normally bet if I lose?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Just let me bet my life." And immediately the king just starts kind of fucking laughing, and he's just kind of like, I underestimated your resolve. You are a badass bitch. And he does he's like, you're crazy. And so what he does is he rips off his own left arm.
Oh.
In order to, he's like, I'm going to rip off my own arm to prove to you that I have the same resolve that you do, because clearly you're a badass. And I respect that. And so I'm going to rip off my arm because I need to punish myself for not having the same resolve as you. And he said to her, he's like, you could have wished to kill me. He's like, if you beat me, you could literally wish to kill me. And she immediately goes, why would I want to do that? And he's like, what? The king is like, why? Well, because I'm eating your people. I'm eating human. I'm like, you all hate me. Why wouldn't you want to kill me? What? So he's losing his mind about this. And so he rips off his own arm to show his resolve. Immediately, Poof is like, sire, what are you doing? Why would you fucking do that? And he's just like, I'm fine. Shut up. He's like, I'm good. So he calls Neferpito to come in and use Dr. Blythe to heal his arm. But he refuses to stop playing Gungi. He's like, no, I'm going to keep playing. I'm going to keep playing with Komogi. I'm not going to lose. I'm not going to stop. And Komogi even says, please heal yourself before we play more. And he's like, nah, I'm all right. I'm cool. So then Pito summons Dr. Blythe to heal his arm. By the way, Pito is the main scout. The cat girl is the main scout for this royal guard. Because of her cat instincts, she's able to sense things that are at least, a half mile, if not a whole mile outside of the palace. So she has a crazy ability. Any bad guy or any of their enemies, or I guess good guys, any of the good guys that would be approaching the castle, she would be able to sense and dispatch of them quickly. But when she's using Dr. Blythe, she can't do that. So,
right. So she's distracted this whole time.
She's distracted this entire time, and this gives our heroes the chance to set different portals. So Nove gets in there and starts setting portals around outside the palace, inside the palace, and then right down the staircase from the main throne room. So he goes in there and he's like, I don't know why they're not looking out for me, but I'm going to keep doing this. So he keeps setting the portals. However, when he's setting those portals, he does notice Poof's aura, and Poof's aura is full of such evil malice and hatred that it sends Nove into a depressive spiral. He starts losing his fucking mind. He's like, I've never sensed something with so much malice. I've never sensed something with so much hatred. I don't understand how we're going to beat it. So after he leaves, he says to Moral and the rest of the team, he's like, I don't think I can go back there, guys. I can't fight them. I can't do this. And he just starts having major panic attacks to the point where his hair turns white and he starts losing his hair. He's just panicking so much. He's like, I can't do this. It's really sad, actually. It's a really good example of PTSD, to be honest.
Right.
He still says though, I am going to help you out with the portals. I'll still help you with that, but I'm not going to be part of the fight. I can get you in there, and that's all I'm going to do, because I'm never going back in there ever again. And the other characters are like, oh shit. Okay. That's pretty fucking wild. So meanwhile, back where Gon and Kilowatt are, remember, Gon can't use his Nen for a whole month because he has IRS attached to him. But they are training. Like, he is lifting weights. He's still going to the gym. He's still practicing. Kilowatt is practicing with his old teacher, whose name is Bisky. So she comes over to help train Kilowatt and Gon. So they end up practicing and getting ready. And then eventually they are allowed to go back into and help them out, because they prove themselves worthy enough to fight alongside Knuckles, Shoot, Moral, and Palm. So they continue on. So this Palm character, she's not, again, I'm not going to talk about her too much because she's not crucial to the plot line. She's basically used to infiltrate the castle, because the people, the Chimera Ants they're not stupid. And they realize that the Diego, the old king of East Corto, wasn't the real leader of East Corto. There was actually a kind of like a shadow leader named Bizef, and Bizef was kind of like the brains of the operation. While Kim Jong-un was up there eating and partying all the time,
right? He was the puppet leader for the actual intelligent person.
Yeah. Right. So Bizef was that. And they don't kill Bizef. The ants are like, no, we're going to keep Bizef around because he knows the ins and outs of the culture of East Corto, so we're not going to kill him. Let's just keep him happy. So they send him, it's really fucking sick, actually. They give him like 5 women to just like play with in his underground bunker. So like, they're just like, they live in these little houses, and he's like, when I call for you, come to my house and we'll have some fun. And he like licks his lips. It's really disgusting.
Right.
So Palm is a beautiful young woman. So she actually goes there. So she ends up becoming like one of she infiltrates by way of exactly. So she ends up going in as basically one of his courtesans. But her mission is simple. Once she lays eyes on the king, she can then spy on him and then send a direct feed to the good guys about what's going on. So that's like her mission. She never ends up fulfilling that mission, but she doesn't die though either. She does not die. She just gets kidnapped and transformed into a Chimera Ant because they want to test. Because remember, that's what they're going to do in the selection. The ants are going to then transform all of the people of East Corto into soldier ants. So they're testing it out. And when Palm tries to escape Bizef's perverted clutches, she makes her way up. But very inconvenient for Palm. Right as she's about to like kind of climb the staircase and try to get her eyes on the king, Pito is done fixing his arm. So she puts Dr. Blythe away and then uses her N and her aura to then sense everything in the immediate area. And Palm gets seen and she gets captured. And she gets immediately put into a cocoon to help transform her into one of the Chimera Ants, which is really sad. Womp womp. Sorry, Palm. Again, she doesn't die though, which is nice. So that's good, I guess. So as time goes on, IRS goes away, Gon gets his powers back, and they start planning the big mission into East Corto to try to take down the king once and for all. They leave the king to Chairman Naturo because no one's stronger than Naturo, so they're like, all right, Chairman, you're going to fight the king. Moral and Nove were going to fight Shia Poof, but Nove is like, nah, I'm not fighting. I'm not doing this. Fuck that. So Moral is assigned to fight Poof. Knuckle and Shoot are assigned to fight Yuppie, and Gon and Killua are assigned to fight Neferpito because they want revenge for killing Kite. Although again, they think Kite's still alive because they're dumb. But they want to find they want revenge for Kite, so they're gonna fight Pito. So they all kind of get their assignments and they all get ready to go. But before that happens, they kind of start hunting down any remaining straggling soldier ants and squadron leaders. And Killua starts running around East Corto to try to warn people that it's all bullshit. It's like, don't go to the selection. It's all bullshit. Your leader is dead. He's not alive. But nobody believes him. Like they all start like, they're like, nah, you're full of shit, kid. You're a traitor. You're a dirty fucking traitor. And he's like, no, I'm serious. Don't go. Please stop. Like, don't, like, you're just going to get eaten or worse. Like, don't go. But, you know, it doesn't unfortunately work that way for them. So which is sort of sad. And all the people, by the way, start to then shuffle into towards the palace. So all the people of East Corto start to migrate their way to the palace. So there's hundreds of thousands of people already kind of waiting in front. And meanwhile, Shia Poof uses his pollen ability. He basically sends his little butterfly scales, and he can sort of make all the people brain dead. He just like doesn't like lobotomize them necessarily. He just kind of like makes them like duh for like an extended period of time. So anyway, they keep trying to set up all this stuff, and
so I want to take a moment just to bring up the fact that I've been Google searching names as you've been saying them.
Yes. And
looking at these characters, and this whole time I was picturing ants.
Oh, they look like animals.
They look nothing like ants. It's just a cat girl. It's just a cat girl. And then I see a picture of her, like her full body, and she's got like exoskeleton knees, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's like that's the ant part, I guess. And this king guy is hilarious because he does look a lot like Cell, firstly. And,
yes, he does.
And he's got a helmet on that's clearly part of his body, but he has like helmet straps coming down as if the helmet is unbuckled.
Right, yeah. He's kind of a mix of like if Frieza and Cell did the fusion dance. Because he wears a vest.
Yeah, he does wear a vest. And I literally see a picture when I search his name, Ant Hunter or Chimera Ant King. It's him with that girl, and his arm is like ripped off and bandaged.
Yeah. Yep, that's Komugi. And we can talk about that because you bring up a good point. So the Chimera ants are all about evolution. That is their whole thing. Like I mentioned before, their number one goal is to give birth to the king and take over the world. That is it. That is all that they have. That is a singular goal. However, because they're eating people and other animals, that starts to blur the waters. And the king even mentions that throughout the or at some point during the season, he ends up saying something on the lines of like, well, it's very interesting because our goal should just be singular, yet we kind of changed. We've developed a sense of individualism like humans do. And that's and he sees that, at first sees that as a weakness. He's like, nah, individualism is a weakness. It's not a good thing. Everything should serve a greater purpose. It should be the same purpose. And then when he meets Komugi and sees that this blind, dumb girl is unbeatable at this board game, he's like, well, no, I don't think that anymore. Clearly, there's value in everybody. And he starts to realize that, like, he was wrong. Which, by the way, Poof fucking hates. His royal guard, Poof, absolutely hates this. He's like, no, you're the king. You should do whatever you want. Everything is your plaything. What are you doing? Don't feel bad. Don't regret your thing. You're the king. Kings don't regret their actions. They don't do that at all. However, Pito, on the other hand, kind of likes this. Pito's like, oh, this is kind of cool. The king's like a little bit more chill. He's just having a good time. He's just playing a board game. That's kind of neat. Cool, whatever. Like, Pito doesn't really care as much. Pito, like, she starts to have a change of heart, where when we first saw her, she was an evil, sick, sadistic psychopath. Now she's just like, well, I want to protect the king at all costs, but I really just want to make sure that, my family's happy. Like, she just wants to keep everybody happy. And that's like kind of one of her goals. And so she ends up kind of forming, like, kind of like a cat does, forming bonds, whereas Pito on the other, not Pito, Poof is just like a fucking lunatic. And then Yuppie's just like still kind of just a big dumb idiot. Anyway, but that's fine. Yuppie can be a dumb idiot. Every arc needs a big dumb idiot.
Who also, his design, ludicrous.
He has a few designs. He kind of changes a bit. He turns into like a centaur looking motherfucker at one point. Like,
that was the first thing I saw, but I'm just seeing he kind of looks like he's just like a meat creature.
Yeah, basically. Like, but talking about the evolutionary process, like, they start to lose a lot of what made them ants, like, is what I'm trying to say. And that's why, like you're suggesting, like, these characters don't really look like ants anymore.
Yeah, because if you look up the queen, it looks like an ant. Like, that looks like something. That looks like what I kind of expected everything to look like.
Yeah, and at the beginning of the arc, a lot of the soldiers look like that. They look way more insect-like. But as the story progresses, we start seeing, like, characters look a little different. Like, Peggy, for example. Peggy looks like a penguin.
Yeah, I looked him up. It's a penguin, yeah.
He's just a penguin.
It's a pretty common sci-fi or fantasy trope to have a species. Like, I think there's, like, stuff in, like the Borg in Star Trek is a great example. It's a species that takes other species, conquers them, and assimilates their DNA into themselves. And at a point where no one knows what a Borg is anymore. Like, there's no more original Borg. No one can ever find out what they were because they're all these, like, machine, like, hodgepodge creatures.
Yeah.
So it's like
very much like this.
It seems to be it's a pretty common thing in other. I think there's a Doctor Who episode where they're at the school, and those bat creatures. That's the same idea. Like every time they conquer a race, they take a piece of them, and like no one knows who they even were anymore.
Yeah, it's and that's exactly what's going on here, basically. And keep in mind, like the king's only been alive for like a month at this point.
Right.
He hasn't been alive for very long, but his development is absurd. Like his mental development is crazy. He goes from just being an instinctual, I am king, you serve me, to like, oh, all living things have value. Okay, that's cool. I should be more careful and selective with what I do with humans. Like he starts having a soft spot for people. He doesn't necessarily, he's starting to even change his mind, someone might even say, about doing these things. Meanwhile, like our heroes are getting ready for the big invasion, the big final battle to begin. And man, it starts out with a bang. So from a narration standpoint, the first like 3 to 5 episodes of the, what should we call this? I guess we can call this the extermination event, I guess, like the extermination team, which is like Moral, Gone, Kilowatt, Shoot, Knuckle, those guys. Like that event happens. We'll just call it Extermination Day. Okay, that's fine. We'll just call it that. Extermination Day finally is upon us, and it starts off with a fucking bang. And the first like 3 minutes of this thing, or the first like 5 minutes of it, all happen. It kind of is like a Dragon Ball Z syndrome of like when Frieza's like 5 minutes until the planet explodes.
Right, yeah.
Like it's one of those things where like everything happens so fast, and the narrator basically, and this is something that I don't really like from a story, like a production standpoint, is the narrator has a very big job in these next in the next like 10, 15 episodes, because he basically just explains everything that's going on because it's so fast.
Right.
And it's so much going on. But I don't think you really needed to. Like I think the viewers could have figured it out for themselves if they just watched it. But whatever. That's a note from a producer to another. So right out of the gate, the battle starts with a bang, and it starts off with Chairman Naturo and Zeno Zoldyck. We brought them up earlier.
Oh wait, so the chairman fights too?
Oh yeah, he fights in a very big way. But they
What's his power?
Approach the. I'll get to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get to it. He's got a pretty cool power. He's the ultimate martial artist. Let me put it that way. So Chairman Naturo and Zeno are flying on a magical dragon, basically, like super high above the sky. And in that moment, Neferpito, just out of pure instinct, decides to look up. And as she sees, and she sees them like starting to jump down, she's like, okay, I see these two characters jumping down, and clearly they're here to fight us. That's great. So Pito gets excited and is like, hey, I get to fight more things. And Pito jumps up, and in that moment, Zeno launches his this wild fucking attack. That's basically what's the best way to call this thing? It's like, I think it's called Dragon Dive or Dragon Bomb, I think. And it's basically carpet bombing. So Zeno basically carpet bombs the palace to try to kill as many soldier ants and squad leaders as humanly possible, and to like land Chairman Naturo perfectly so that they can fight. And Neferpito jumps up, and she's about to like try to attack the chairman, and she immediately realizes that's a big mistake, because Chairman Naturo is in fact more powerful than she is. And he simply raises his hands up as if to make a prayer move, and then he quickly moves one hand away to like slap her, and then a gigantic golden arm comes out of fucking nowhere and just slaps Pito, and she just starts flying back like super far, and she's just like, oh fuck, this is way more intense than we thought. This is really bad. This is very, very bad.
Realizing you were just fighting juniors before, and now you're fighting masters.
Yeah, basically, like Pito is like, oh, I'm out of my league here, and this guy's going to go fight the king. This is not good. So she like is kind of already, while she's tumbling through the air, she's like, fuck, like oh god, no. And the carpet bomb hits the castle. Everybody for the most part's okay. The extermination team pops up at the same time, so they have to like kind of dodge these bombs too, but they're all right. They dodge it fine. Nobody gets hit. But unfortunately, one of the major casualties of this carpet bombing is Komogi, the Gungi player. So she gets hit. She's not killed, but she gets hit in the stomach, and it is not good. She is she's basically on death's door, and the king is just in absolute shock and horror to see that this person that he's learned to respect and some might even say love is bleeding out on the ground, and he is just like, as you can imagine, not happy. And when Pito like gets back after she hits the ground and she ends up going back to the palace really quickly, the king immediately is just like, your job is to heal her. Your job is not to fight. You are to heal her. That is your only thing. And she's like, oh, okay, no problem, King. I'll do whatever you want.
So I need to clarify something from my own brain picturing this.
Yes.
So this cat girl has super senses.
Yes.
And summons a doctor to heal things, which I looked up. You're right. Looks creepy as fuck.
Super creepy.
How does she fight?
She just fights like a kind of like a cat, honestly. She uses her claws. That's how she ripped off Kite's arm.
Right. So like, despite everything going on, she has like super strength and like super whatever. Okay.
Super strength, super power.
She's
very quick.
Do the normal people have like super strength and shit too? Like the normal hunters, I mean?
Like the normal hunters? I mean, if they are enhancers, they do. Like Gon, for example, he's an enhancer type.
So
yes, he has the ability to raise his strength.
So like the guy who has like dimensions and stuff doesn't have like super strength. He can only fight with his like dimension powers. Or like
he's
a gun.
Pretty strong. Like in order to be a hunter, you still have to have incredible physical prowess.
Right. But I'm saying,
so he's still strong.
I'm trying to think of this in like my superhero brain. Like if you were a character like that, like your peak physical condition, you still can't beat Captain America in a fight. So like that's what I'm saying. Like, so is this cat girl super powered in her like physical abilities?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
And it's because of her other genetic abilities too. Cause like she's part cat, but she's the size of a person. So like think of like if like a cat was about the size of a person, how strong that could actually be. Like think of their muscles and stuff like that on top of having an exoskeleton instead of just a regular.
Yeah. That makes sense. I just wasn't sure if like anyone who had those like, what's it called? Nem?
Nen.
Nen? Anyone? I wasn't sure if anyone who had the Nen powers also had like just a set attribute of like super, like, oh, you're super fast and strong as well as this kind of stuff. Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
Not necessarily. Only enhancers really have that ability. However, for example, say there's if you look it up, there's actually like a Nen wheel because there are 6 different types, like, and they're actually very much fit into personality types. Like if Nen was real, I would likely be an enhancer as well because like I'm kind of straightforward. I wear my heart on my sleeve. You would probably be something on the lines of like either like a manipulator or a conjurer kind of thing because you're very meticulous and thoughtful and intelligent and logical. So like it's very much to personality types as well.
Oh, I found it. Yep. I found the wheel.
Yeah. And so if you're an enhancer, for example, you can actually practice emission and transmutation techniques. You can practice those too. You will never be an expert at those techniques, but you can still practice them. However, if you try to practice manipulation and conjuration, it's going to be a lot harder for you because it's further down.
Okay, I get it. So you have a power, but they're all connected in a wheel, and your adjacent one, you can practice any of them, but your adjacent ones come easier, but you can't be as good as someone who's naturally that one.
Exactly. So exactly. So Kilowatt, for example, he's a transmuter. He uses electrical powers, but enhancer's right next to it. So he can get physically stronger if he wants to. And he does. Like he uses some enhancement ability to gain physical prowess, despite him focusing more on his transmuter abilities. And like Kurapika, the character that is not in this arc at all, he's a conjurer, and he does practice some transmuter and even specialization abilities as well. Like because specialization is right next to him, he can then kind of use his powers to be more unique.
Right.
So that's kind of what's going on. So yes. So to answer your question, yes and no.
Right.
And Pito is a conjurer.
So theoretically, someone who is a specialist could practice enhancement and become stronger than peak human possibility.
It's potential, yeah, because especially, for example, like Chrollo is a good example. He has the ability to use other people's abilities as long as he
right.
can,
No,
I think
but
if
yeah,
it's-
but
I
I'm
think
saying,
if
I'm just
meets
saying, if
them-
someone specialist was like, "Oh, I'm good at archery," just to be an example, right? Like that could be a thing,
Right.
Like that's a thing,
Sure.
But then but enhancements on the opposite side of the wheel from a specialist. Right. So if you're a specialist, you could potentially still practice enhancement. You would just be not good at it.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
It'd be the hardest thing for you to practice is enhancing abilities. Like enhancing your physical strength, capabilities, and stuff like that would be very hard for you, if borderline impossible, but not impossible.
Right.
So like again, it's all relative. And that's why I like this. I like this power setup a lot because it's very much akin to the individual. So like whatever you are and whatever your personality type is, like we could literally go around with our entire community and probably give people different like Nen abilities. Like again, I'd probably be an enhancer. You'd probably be a conjurer, a manipulator. Like I could see. I feel like like Madam would probably be like an emitter or a transmuter. You know what I mean? Kind of that kind of stuff. We'd all have our own individual things. Like Doll Cake probably that one actually is pretty tough. She might be a specialist, honestly. She's a unique one. But no. So like we all have our own.
Right. I understand the powers now. So now I get it. Because you were talking about how the Nefertiti, whatever the fuck her name is, was
Neferpito, yeah.
Cat Girl was supposed to like, oh, don't fight. And I was thinking like, well, how could she fight someone with super strength? But now I get it. It's
right.
It's okay. I get it.
Yeah. And again, because like think of just like the normal power of an ant. Like an ant can lift what? Is it like 2-3 times its own body
10
weight?
times.
Something like that. 10 times its own body weight. So an ant automatically genetically is very powerful.
Yeah.
So like imagine like a human-sized ant with cat abilities as well. That's Neferpito.
Yeah.
So like she's very strong and very fast too. And she can basically use both her ant and cat genetics to go insanely fast. And that actually is explained. The narrator literally explains that to you in the episode, in one of the episodes. What's up?
So ants hold items on their neck and their neck joint. The American field ant's neck joint can withstand pressures up to 5,000 times its weight.
Jesus fucking Christ.
So there you go.
All right. Well, that explains. There's another explanation to why the Royal Guards are stupid powerful. If you needed another reason. Jesus Christ. So anyway, moving on. So yeah, the king is ordering Pito to use Dr. Blythe to heal Komogi because that is the most important thing in his life. Around that time that happens, Chairman Naturo and Zeno show up, and Zeno sees that he accidentally used his dragon dive to injure a girl, like a human girl, and he goes, this isn't what I signed up for. I'm leaving. He's like, nope, because the Zoldycks, they're a team of, they're like, a family of assassins, but they are very honor bound. So like if they make a mistake, they will try to atone for that, and they can like even just quit a job. They'll just be like, nope, I'm done. So Zeno at this moment is kind of like, nah, I really can't. I'm not part of this anymore, really. And even Naturo was like, what the fuck's going on? The king is holding a human, but not like he's going to eat her, like he cares about her. And Neturo's like, what is this? This is so weird. Like, this is very strange. And then the king immediately sees them and he's like, all right, you're here to fight me, right? All right, let's go fight. Whatever. I don't give a shit. So he's like, let's get away from the palace. I imagine you don't want to end up hurting any of these humans outside. Let's go find a place off in the distance to go battle. So then Zeno summons like a dragon for Chairman Naturo and the king to basically ride on, and they ride like miles and miles away, probably along the lines of
Dragon Ball.
Probably like Dragon Ball. They ride this dragon like 10 miles roughly. I'd say 10, 15 miles probably, maybe even more than that, maybe 20. Away from the palace, and they basically fight in a place that looks like where Goku and Vegeta first fights. Right. Like, I'm not even kidding. It's a very like canyon area. So that's where they go. So meanwhile, they're off to go fight that. Moral successfully cornered Shiapoof and traps him in his smoky jail. So then Shiapoof can no longer go aid the king, and Knuckle is fighting Knuckle and Shoot are fighting Yuppie at the staircase. And actually, there's a really great scene where right before Chairman Naturo and the king go off on their way, they're kind of walking on the ramparts of the palace, and Chairman Naturo turns his head. He sees Gon like off in the distance, and he just kind of with his thumb points to where Pito is. Like he's like, yeah, she's over there. And Gon goes from like what's going on to fucking like, got it, thanks. Like, gonna go kill her. Like, and Netero kind of smirks like, have at it, kid. Like, he's like, go for it. Netero and Gon met before, and Netero has a lot of respect for Gon, especially because he's Jean's kid. So he's like, all right, go get him, kid. And Kilo was as well like, okay, it's time we go do this. So then Gon goes to find Pito. He goes into the room where Pito is healing Komogi with Dr. Blythe, and immediately is like, what the fuck is this? What are you doing? Get up and fight me right now. And Pito is like, no, please let me heal this girl. This is the most important thing I can do right now. Please let me heal her. And Gon starts fucking screaming at her, like in a way that like you'd not see him before. Like, you've never seen this character is basically Goku. Gon is basically Goku in almost every way. Yeah. Except this. And Gon is, and this is one of those moments that definitely shows you that like he is his own character and he's very defined, because he's just like, why the fuck should I let you save her? Why should I let you save this person after you did what you did to Kite? Why should I let you do this after you plan on murdering all these innocent people? You're a psychopath. You're evil. And then to prove that like she's like, look, just let me heal her. Please let me heal her. It's the most important thing. Pito breaks her own arm, very similar to kind of like the way the king did, to show like, look, I'm not going to be a threat to you right now. Let me break my own arm just so I can focus on healing this girl. And Gon eventually agrees to give her 1 hour to heal the girl. He's like, fine, I'm going to sit right here and watch you heal the girl. And once you're done, we're going to fight. Bear in mind, Pito technically is stronger than Gon, and not even like slightly. Like, she's pretty much stronger than him.
Well, she can, but yet she can punch 5,000 times human strength.
Yeah. So she is basically like, but yet she is horrified of Gon right now. She is so scared of him because of his resolve, and he is, to be fair, showing off a lot of power. Like when he's angry and yelling at her, he is like flexing his muscles, and the aura around him is exploding, very similar to the way Goku does when he goes into Super Saiyan. You know, like it is just exploding around him, and she is like very scared of him. She's like, I've never seen somebody with this much resolve. I've never seen somebody with this much like direct anger in my entire life. Like, and she is horrified of Gon in this moment, even though, again, she even says it to herself, like, I could probably kill him, but I don't know if I can at the same time. Like, he's unknown. I don't know. And he's like, after you're done with this girl, we're going to go to Kite, and you're going to heal Kite. You're going to fix Kite. And she doesn't even, by the way, know who Kite is. She never knew his name. She just fought the guy and killed him. So she has no idea who he's talking about. She's just like, okay, I agree to go with you. I'll agree to go with you. Just let me heal Komugi. So again, like I said, he agrees, sits down, and just kind of watches her heal. Killua shows up and is like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this actually happens quite a few times. Like, a few characters show up while she's healing Komugi, and Gon's sitting there, and they're all kind of have the same reaction of like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, and Gon is kind of just like, Killua, fuck off. This isn't your fight. And that's like the first, he doesn't say fuck off, but like, he's like, this isn't your fight, Killua. And that actually kind of breaks Killua's heart, because Killua and Gon are like best friends, and Killua wants to do everything with Gon. And like, that's all he's ever wanted, is he wanted to leave the assassin, like the assassins group, like his family, just to make friends and to be a hunter instead. And so like, he's heartbroken by seeing Gon this way. He doesn't recognize his best friend. And it's like really sad. It's like there's a monologue that got me kind of like jerked to tears. Cause after that, Killua leaves and ends up discovering Palm. Palm hatches from her cocoon in her newly like ant form, and Palm and Killua kind of fight a little bit. But Killua apologizes and is like, Palm, it's me. It's just Killua. Please don't fight me. I'm sorry that I was always a smartass to you. I'm sorry that I always pissed you off. And then he just starts breaking down and crying, and he's like, Gon needs to see that you're okay. Please, Gon needs to see that you're okay. Like, and because I can't help him anymore. I can't help him. And he just starts desperately wailing, like, I can't help him. And he's like so heartbroken. Like, at this point, he's not even thinking about the mission anymore. He's not thinking about his fight with Palm. He's just like, heartbroken that he can't help his friend. That's all he wants to do is help his friend, which I very much relate to sometimes, because every now and again, you know, in real life, your friends are going through something and all you want to do is help them, but you can't. And it's so hard. It's a really heartbreaking scene, actually. And Palm understands and is like, no, you're right, Kilowatt. I'm not an ant. I'm a human, and I'm going to help you guys out. And I'm sorry, and I'll help you with Gon and everything. So they end up working together. So meanwhile, Poof is actually splitting. Poof has the ability to basically break down his entire body into like microscopic sizes of himself, and he escapes Moral's smoky jail. And when he escapes, he tries to go find the king. But the first thing he finds is Pito, Gon, and the injured Komogi being healed by Dr. Blythe. And Poof immediately is like, why are you healing her? Like, she's a problem. She's only been a problem to the king. Like the king is distracted by this stupid, dumb girl. Like, why would you be healing her? Poof wants to kill Komogi. Like, so there's already now a split between the royal guards. Like, Pito wants to save her, and Poof wants to kill her. So right away, you're already seeing, like, now you're definitely seeing a huge rift. But Pito turns around and is like, Poof, please don't come any closer. Please don't come any closer, because this kid will attack me. If you get any closer, this kid's going to attack me, and then Komogi's going to die, and I don't know what the king's going to do to any of us. And so, like, she's freaking out about it. And Poof eventually is like, all right, fine, talks Poof down into agreeing. And then he just kind of hatches his own scheme. And, like, once she's done healing Komogi and she goes to fight this kid, I'm just going to kill Komogi. So that's kind of like the plan he hatches in his head. And so they kind of all start waiting around. Meanwhile, the king and Chairman Naturo finally land and they begin their battle. But the king doesn't want to fight. He literally says to him, I've learned so much in the short time that I've been alive, and I just don't want to fight you. Please, let's talk instead. And Neturo's like, what? You want to talk to me? I was assigned to kill you, brother. I don't know if I can talk to you. And then he even starts saying things like, I don't want to kill humans anymore. I don't want to do this. I understand that I now know what the true purpose of power is. The true purpose of power is to protect the weak. It's not to hurt the weak. It's not to dominate over. It's to protect them. I won't do this anymore. And even the chairman says to himself, I have to start this fight soon or else my heart's going to be swayed. Like, he's like, I'm going to start being on this king's side, because otherwise, but I have to fight him. I got hired to fight him, so I'm going to fight him. So then the chairman offers him a deal. Instead of like just like straight up trying to kill him, he goes, how about this? If you can beat me, I'll tell you your real name. And the king doesn't know his name. So he's like, okay, I'm interested. All I have to do is beat you down and defeat you. And then you'll tell me my name without killing you. All right. I'll be playing without a rook or a bishop, but I'll do it. And then, so the king gets up, busts out his aura, big purple glowy aura, like very intimidating. And Neturo's like, the fight begins. And so let's break into Naturo a little bit, give him a little bit of background. So Naturo, like I said, he is the ultimate master at martial arts. He uses martial arts as his religion. He has practiced it his entire life, to the point where after he became an ultimate martial artist, he spent years standing in an open field, throwing 10,000 punches every single day as a way to thank the gods of martial arts, basically. And he does this through snow, rain, sleet, all of it. He just stands there and throws punches. And at first, it takes him, basically the whole day to throw the punches. And then after he's done, he just sits there and meditates. But by the end of like the first 2 years, he can finish those 10,000 punches within I forget what it is. I think it's just like 10 minutes or something, or less than that. So he's basically throwing 10,000 punches in less than 10 minutes, which is fucking nuts if you think about it. And because of that, he ends up unlocking his ultimate Nen ability, which is, I can't pronounce it, so I'm not going to try, but it's basically this gigantic golden statue that kind of looks like a Buddha, but not like a fat one, like a skinny Buddha. And it has like a bunch of I don't know, 100, I think it has 100 arms, 100 hands. And it basically, every time he punches, he can summon it, and that thing will attack instead of him. And it's basically just like an ultimate force, basically. It's like an ultimately powerful force.
This is all so video gamey, it like hurts. Like these are
it
all like
really
characters' ultimate attacks in a video game.
Yeah, it very much is. And so Neturo summons this thing and starts kind of tooling on Meruem. He starts to fucking wreck the king to the point where even the viewer is going, "Oh shit, he might win. Like Neturo might beat the king. This is kind of good, I guess." Even though at this point, as a viewer, you're kind of empathizing with the king, because he's learned to protect the weak and save the innocent. Instead of being a scumbag, he's like. So in a way, you're like your heart's kind of torn between Chairman Neturo and the king, because you're like, the king's not really that bad anymore. And so he just starts wailing on him, but the king just keeps getting up, and he's like, not bad, but eventually I'm going to find your weakness. And when I do, I'm going to win. And so they basically, what Meruem does is he just keeps throwing his body at Chairman Neturo until eventually he threads the needle, which is how he puts it, and he ends up cutting off Chairman Neturo's, I think, left leg. And he's like, "All right, time to tell me my name. You got to tell me my name now because I cut off your leg." And then Chairman Neturo does this really fucking crazy thing where he slaps the stump of his leg and it closes it, and it's like really kind of gross. And you're like, "Oh God!" But he stops the bleeding and he's like, "I'm not done yet. Let's keep fighting. You didn't beat me yet." And Meruem's like, "Okay, I guess I'll keep fighting you." So they keep it up for a little bit longer till eventually Meruem threads the needle one more time and cuts off his left arm. To which then Neturo responds once again with, "I don't need my arms to beat you. Prayer is an action of the heart. It's not an action of the arms." So then he can still summon his gigantic golden statue to continue pounding on Meruem. But Chairman Neturo realizes that, I'm at the end of my rope here. I lost 2 of my limbs. I'm kind of fucked. I have to end this. So he uses one ultimate move called the Zero Hand, which basically is he slams the king in between 2 hands of the golden statue stuck. The golden statue opens its mouth and basically fires what is essentially a mega super Kamehameha blast into its own hands to basically annihilate the king. And it is one hell of a blast, let me tell you. But it's not quite enough. Though, that being said, when the king emerges from the smoke, very Dragon Ball Z, he's fucked up. He's got huge scrapes all over him. He's bleeding and stuff. He's and he even acknowledges, he's like, "You are without a doubt one of the most powerful things people that I've ever fought. I did not think a human could get this powerful. I commend you so much for your abilities." And Neturo's like, "Ah, fuck." He's like, that was my move. That was it. But, oh, and I forgot to mention this too. Neturo actually loves this battle. This is a battle that he has spent his entire life wanting to do. When he was younger, he told himself that every time he ever got into a fight with martial arts, it was never a big epic battle like that. He was always able to win. It was never life and death. It was never for the sake of people. And he wanted to spend his life. He wanted to, more than anything in the world, have a battle like this, a world-shattering, world-saving battle. And so this to him is something that he's always wanted, and he had it, but he loses because Meruem does not die. And at that moment, Neturo is out of gas. He's totally out of fumes. He can't fight anymore, and he just kind of collapses onto the ground. And he's just kind of like, "All right, I'll tell you your name. Your name is Meruem." And Meruem's like, "Oh, okay." But in that same moment, Neturo looks at him and goes, "But what you don't understand is the bottomless malice of human beings." And all of a sudden you're like, and the look that he gives, just Google look Neturo gives Meruem before boom or something like that. Because what he does is, little did we know that before this battle happened, Chairman Neturo surgically had what is essentially a nuclear bomb put into his stomach. And to go off, that if he loses the fight with the Ant King, it would go off when his heart stops. So Neturo takes his fingers, punctures his own heart to end his life, to set off this nuclear bomb. And Meruem is basically 10 feet away from him. And if you're 10 feet away from a nuclear bomb, guess what happens to you?
Not good things.
Not good things. And Meruem realizes oh, checkmate was yours all along. I was never going to beat you because you have this thing inside of you. So the nuclear bomb basically goes off and just fucking decimates the entire area. And from what we understand, Meruem loses, but he's not dead yet. He's still not fucking dead yet. So when this happens, Shia and Yuppie, they're all kind of done with their battles. You know, no one, like, believe it or not, Knuckle didn't die because Yuppie ended up, Yuppie fought Knuckle and Moral and all those guys, but they did such a good job fighting him. He actually just respected them so much that after they came to an agreement and said, you take this stupid thing off of me, because Knuckle put APR, the little guy who collects, Nen insurance, basically. He put APR on Yuppie and said, if you make this thing go away, I'll spare your friends and I won't kill them. And so Knuckle agrees. And so because of that, Yuppie does not kill any of them. And he goes off and he goes, well, I'm going to go find the king now. And Shia does the same thing. He's like, all right, time to go find the king. Around the same time, Pito is done healing Komogi, and Komogi kind of gets kidnapped by Kilowatt and Palm and another character named Ikago. And they and she's, because they just think they're protecting a girl. They're like, oh, we're gonna go save this girl now, I guess. So like they kind of save her, and then Gon is like, all right, you're coming with me now. We're gonna go save Kite. We're gonna go heal Kite. And so they leave the palace, and they go very far away. They go all the way to where Kite's body is being held, which is like somewhere else. And by the time they get there, Pito realizes, oh, Kite is that guy. She turns to Gon and just says, yeah, he's dead. He's dead. Like I can't bring him back. I can't bring back something that's already dead. I can only heal things that are mortally wounded at very best. And Gon breaks down and loses it. And he's like, this is all my fault. This is all my fault. This is all my fault. So we'll get back to them, but let's go back to, Poof and Yuppie. So Poof and Yuppie are now trying to find the king, and they see they can see the cloud of the nuclear blast, and they're like, and they realize something really bad happened to the king. So they start freaking the fuck out and they try to find the king. So bear in mind, there's more than one way that a nuclear blast can kill a person. Yes, if you're next to it, it can turn you into dust. But if you're like miles away from it and just close enough, you can get sick with, that's right, radiation poisoning. So Poof and Yuppie go into the into the molten hot magma to try to find Meruem's body, and they do. They find his charred body. He's basically just a husk. He's got like a little bit of his head left and his torso, but his arms are gone, his legs are gone. He's just like this charred husk. But they realize that he's still alive. So what they do is they sacrifice themselves a lot. Like they sacrifice 7/8 of their own power and fill up Meruem with their own ability. And that ends up saving Meruem. So Meruem comes back, and some might even say even stronger than ever. And Meruem ends up, but he has no memory. He literally loses his entire memory and does not know what he's doing. And all he remembers is that, like, oh, yeah, I'm the king. And I'm supposed to take over the world. Fuck, what else am I supposed to do? And Poof sees this as a perfect opportunity. He's like, oh, he doesn't remember the girl. Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. He doesn't remember the girl. That means we can go back to the original plan, do the selection, and just take over the world like we normally would. They have no idea that all three of them, the king, Poof, and Yuppie, are all now like just riddled with radiation. They are just crazy, covered in radiation. And so they end up going back to the palace, and Shia splits himself up and tries to hide every single piece of evidence that could potentially bring Komogi back. And every now and again, they'll say the wrong word to him. So Shia says, let's play a game, sire. Let's just play a game so you don't go back to the palace right away instead. And Meruem's like, game. Why is the word game so important to me? Why am I remembering this? What the hell? And his brain starts to he's like, why is it? And he realizes that Poof is hiding something from him basically immediately. He's like, you're hiding something from me and I want to know what it is, but I'll indulge you in this game. So basically Poof challenges him to like a game of let's find the traitors and the stragglers. So if Poof and Yuppie can find the enemies first, they win. But if the king can find them first, then he wins, and then Poof will tell him the secret. But the king can't use his N abilities because that's way too strong. And if, he used his N, he'd be able to find them instantaneously. So he's, and so it's not fair. And meanwhile, Poof is just basically hiding the Gungi game board, trying to hide the pieces. And, Komugi's nowhere in sight, and Poof's like, good, fuck it. Like, I'm going to try to find her and kill her before it's too late. So he tries to go and find her to kill her. And she's with, Kilowatt for a little while. And then Kilowatt hands her off to Palm to hide her. And Poof never finds her. He just never finds her. And they hide her away in the basement where that creepy Bezef guy was living. Like, they kind of hide her down there, and be like, just stay here and shut up. And he's like, she's just freaking out. Like, where's my dear leader? Where's the king? I want to beat the dear leader. Cause remember, Komugi never had any bad experiences with the king for the most part.
Right.
Like, she just played a game with him. So she doesn't understand why people would want to kill him in the first place. And they try to explain it to her, but she just doesn't listen. Cause she's kind of dumb. So, it is what it is. So anyway, so they keep going. So they keep trying to find her, and Poof can't find her. Eventually, Yuppie is the first one to die of radiation poisoning. So he's about to challenge one of the traitors. And then all of a sudden he just kind of coughs up blood and collapses and dies. And Poof is just like, what the fuck's happening? Why did that happen? That sucks. Uh-oh, that's not good. And so they continue on, and eventually what happens is one of these traitors, like a random character named Welfin, I haven't even brought him up yet because this is the only part in the story where he's really that useful. Welfin helped hide Komugi, and was ordered by Kilowatt and Palm to basically go up to the king and tell him about where Komugi is to strike a deal with them. Because they have no idea that the king lost his memory. So they're just like, we're going to use Komugi as a bargaining chip for our safety. That's their plan, even though they have no idea. And Poof is trying desperately to make sure the king doesn't even remember her. So then there's this scene where this random character, Welfin, stands next to the king, and Poof is desperately begging the king not to ask Welfin any questions, because he has a feeling that Welfin knows what's going on and has a feeling that he's about to say something stupid. And the king kind of turns to Welfin and goes, well, I guess I'll just kill you because you're a traitor. And Welfin kind of just panics, freaks the fuck out. And right before he's about to be executed by the king, he just mouths the word Komugi. That's all he says. He just says Komugi. And that brings all the memories rushing back to the king. And he just immediately forgets about Welfin, turns to Shia Poof, and is just kind of like, why would you hide her from me? Why would you do that? I know why. You know what? I know why, and I don't care. And he's just and he goes, you know what your punishment's going to be. I'll punish you later, though. I'm going to go find Komugi. So he, the king just goes to leave to find Komugi. And Poof is just sad and depressed. He's like, no, the plan, it's all for naught. The plan fell through. We're not going to do it. And then slowly Poof dies of radiation poisoning, which I loved. I'm like, oh, good. Fuck that guy. So then the king goes to find Komugi, finds Palm, and tells Palm right out of the gate, look, I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to know where she is. Please just tell me where she is. I just want to make sure she's okay. I just want to spend the time that I have left. Because the king's smart enough to know that he's dying. He's like, nope, I'm not okay. I'm going to die soon.
He's full of nuke radiation.
Exactly. So he's like, I'm going to die soon. I just want to spend my remaining time with Komugi playing Gungi. Please, please. And Palm is almost doesn't believe him. Palm's like, bullshit. You're full of shit. No way. And he's like, no, really. And he kneels to her. The king kneels to Palm and says, look, I just want to see her. And then in that moment, Palm's like, okay, and tells him where she is. So meanwhile, Gon is blaming himself for Kite's death, and Pito summons Dr. Blythe to fix her broken arm, to then challenge Gon and finally kill him. She's just like, all right, we're going to do this now. Now that you know I can't save Kite, it's time for you to die. Sorry, kid. And then Gon says to himself, I need all the power I'll ever have. And what he does is, using his enhancement abilities, he basically ages himself 20 years. He becomes basically a 35-year-old guy at his peak power and ability. And he's just he literally grows from a 13-year-old to a 35-year-old.
Physically too?
Physically. Like, look it up. He looks kind of silly because he's still wearing his short green shorts and his white t-shirt. So and they're still the same size, but his hair grows out super long.
Yeah, I saw pictures of him. I didn't know if that was like a future thing or like then, but now I see.
No. Yeah, he uses his power to basically use all of his potential all at once. And in that moment, Pito's kind of like, oh shit. If I'm not careful, he could sink his teeth into the king, which, by the way, leads me to believe that if Gon used this power against the king, he might be able to win. Which I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That Gon is really, I mean, he's the main character, so it's the whole thing alludes to him being eventually the strongest, right? So yeah. And Pito is like horrified. So he leads Pito outside because he's like, I don't want to destroy this place where Kite is. So they go into the middle of the woods, and Gon basically kills Pito in like 2 punches. He kicks her so hard in the stomach that he sends her soaring up into the air. And then while she's falling down, he uses his ability, which is basically, it's inspired by rock, paper, scissors. So he says, show me rock. And his fist just starts to glow. And once she comes down and her face is within punching distance, he punches her so hard in the face, he breaks it. And she just goes flying through trees, through rocks, basically Dragon Ball Z style, all the way until she eventually slows down her momentum. And then she just starts panic, and she just like laying there, like free, like kind of like, well, at least he's using his power on me and not the king. And that's like the only thing she says to herself. Like she's like, well, he's not using it against the king. That's good. And Gon just basically goes up to her and finishes her off by just continuously pounding her into the ground. She's like dead as fuck, by the way. like she's already clearly dead as fuck, but he just keeps slamming into her. Meanwhile, Kilowa's trying to find him, and when Kilowa sees what he did to himself, he's like heartbroken because he realizes that like there's a cost to this. He doesn't just like, he's not just all of a sudden all powerful, like, and he's just going to revert back to his normal small size again. No, he used all of his potential up. He wasted all of his years, basically. So when this wears down, Gon basically becomes very sickly and hurt. And this basically ends the Chimera Ant arc. Like, not quite yet. So Kilowa basically takes Gon and tries to bring him to a hospital. That's the end of Gon and Kilowa's story here. And Meruem finds Komogi, and they basically play Gungi until they both end up dying of radiation poisoning because they spend hours together playing, and if she spends too much time with a guy covered in radiation, she too gets radiation poisoning, and she's already a sickly girl, so it doesn't take her long. So Meruem ends up dying in Komogi's arms, and in Komogi shortly after dies along with him, and then that is the end of the Ant King and the Chimera Ant arc, and it's like one of the fucking craziest story. It starts out with just brutal murders and death all over the place and ends with like the king with his heart full, just wanting to play a game with the person that he loves the most.
Yeah. So when I was Googling these images, I kept coming up with these articles and different websites saying Hunter x Hunter Chimera Ant arc, like best anime arc of all time.
I wouldn't go that far.
A lot of people apparently really like this arc, so
it is very, very fucking good. Like, if you like, I would recommend watching Hunter x Hunter. You mentioned the other day that you thought about maybe trying to watch it. I would. I think you might like it. It skips a lot of typical anime tropes at the beginning. Like, Gon gets sent right away into his adventure. Like, he has to take a test, but the test is really cool. So, like, it's worth watching. And then, like, after that is, like, one of my favorite arcs ever is, like, 2 arcs later. It's called the New York New City Auction arc, where one of my favorite characters, Kurapika, finally tries to get revenge on his clan that was murdered. It's really cool. Like, it's a great fucking story. And this arc is just so out of left field because it takes place in a place we've never been to. It has characters we've never met. It's just like, and the only 2 characters that we follow that we know, or 3, I guess, are Gon, Kilowatt, and Chairman Naturo. Those are the only 3 characters that we really, and Pokol and Ponzu, who die, the hunters that we met before who die early on. Like, they're the only characters that we sort of meet beforehand. And the Chimera Ant arc is absolutely, it could have been its own anime. That's like one of the critiques that I've heard, because I looked up critiques of this arc after I watched it the first time, because I wanted to see how people felt about it. And some people basically said it's its own show. It could have been its own show entirely, but it fits perfectly well into the Hunter x Hunter world because of the concept of magical beasts, because that's what they are. They're just magical beasts. So, like, because of that, it fits perfect in the story, and it helps guide the characters along. It is such a crazy time. And again, my only real sort of gripe in terms of a writing and narrative perspective is there's a handful of characters like Ikalgo and Palm, for example, that aren't entirely necessary. Like it could have been like Knuckle or Shoot or Moral or Nove or something like that doing a lot of the things that they did, but instead they made up a bunch of characters, which, okay, fine. That's fine. And also the narrator, again, he narrates like 10, 15 episodes excessively. He does a lot of work by explaining every tiny little thing that's going on, which is kind of cool, like in a way, so that the audience can truly understand everything going on. But it's a little bit like, in my opinion, like, just show us, just come on, just show us, like, show don't tell, show don't tell, show don't tell, Like there's a saying with in TV and movie production that narration is often a crutch for writers instead of just showing the audience what's going on instead.
Yeah, usually that's something you want to say for a prologue or an epilogue, not exactly not showing an important event.
Yeah. So and often I think that most watchers could understand what's going on without the narration, but I get why, because sometimes it helps, you know what I mean? And I'm into it, but other times I'm like, just shut up, dude. Just let's watch. Like, it would actually, part of it would have been really, some of the episodes would have been totally silent, or not silent, but like no dialogue or very minimal dialogue if it wasn't for the narrator. And I would have been okay with that. I would have been totally cool if there were a few episodes that were just like a few internal little tiny monologues between characters like, oh no, this is happening. And that's it. I would have been totally cool with that. But instead, they put a lot of narration in. It's okay. It's fine. That's my only gripe with it, really. And also, it's like 62 fucking episodes. Like, this one arc is like 60 something episodes, and I'm like, God damn it! Like every other arc in the show is like 24 episodes at most, and then the Chimera Ant arc is 62 episodes. It's like, oh fuck. Although it is a masterpiece of storytelling. It is a masterpiece of character development. It is a masterpiece of just like. Even animation at times, because some of the animation is fucking wild. Like when Gon transforms into his 35-year-old age self or whatever, however old he is, it doesn't really tell you. I'm just spitballing here. Like, it looks so cool. Like, the animation is amazing. So if you have a chance, it's on HBO Max. So for those, and it's on Netflix. So if anybody wants to watch Hunter x Hunter, I very much recommend it. It is a phenomenal anime. I watch the dub because I just like dubs a little bit more than subs, just because I speak the language. But if you want to watch the sub, do your sub thing. They're both very, very good. I've seen episodes in both very good. Just make sure you're watching the remake from 2011 because that has all the current arcs in it. But yeah, so that is the story of the Chimera Ant arc and just how fucking crazy it is. And I love it so much. And and I just finished it and I'm now on the final arc of the show. What is the final arc? But like I said, hey, maybe it'll come back.
So it's not the end. There's more after the ant stuff.
Yeah, there's more after the ant stuff because there's a whole arc with because remember, Gon is very he gets fucked up.
Yeah.
So, he is not okay after what he does. So, the next arc is basically, the healing Gon arc. Can we fix Gon? That's, the whole next arc is basically just trying to fix him, which is, it's very good. It's very, very good. And it's finally back into, the normal world again where you can finally see computers and cell phones and stuff. Because, that's one of the things that I loved about this arc was that, the show, for the most part, takes place in the real world, or in the modern world. So, every arc has plenty of uses of computers and TVs and radios and cars and vehicles. And then this arc in particular is just kind of just a lot of fighting. Just a lot of fucking fighting. So it's very interesting and unique in that way. It's very much unlike the rest of the show. If you go back and watch the show, you'll probably go, this does not sound like the Chimera Ant arc at all. And then once you get there, you'll go, oh, okay. And the music in it's great too.
Well.
So yeah, and that wraps up.
Yeah.
This is one of our longest episodes.
Yes, it is.
I was hoping. I was rehearsing this while at work for this week. I was practicing it a lot, but so I tried to make it under 2 hours, but I just couldn't quite get there. But that's okay. So thank you, Atlas, so much for joining us. Thanks for everybody else sticking around. Again, if you're an anime fan, I highly, highly recommend checking out Hunter x Hunter. It is fantastic. So So thanks again, guys, for listening. I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks everybody for being here. We'll see you again next week. And that's all for this one.
Bye.